But speaking of ECW, just last week I interviewed the lovely Francine, and
Yes.
oh,
Oh yeah. Yep.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
She told me this really crazy story about being backstage at WWE, where she was told to basically oil up before she went in to speak to Vince McMahon.
Of course, yeah.
And she had to like come slap him on the back and sit on his desk and all this stuff, and it was really creepy and sleazy. But you always hear these weird stories about being backstage at those shows where everybody's on edge because you can get a bad name or hate or fired over the slightest fucking thing. So from your perspective, what was it like working backstage at WWE?
This is kind of my stock answer. Simultaneously, the most awesome and worst experience of my life. Surreal in the fact that you're there. Surreal in the fact that it never crossed my mind that I would ever be there, ever want to be there. And then you're thrown into this thing, and to see the scale of what they do on a week to week basis. And I know the TV schedule's changed and stuff, but when I was there, it was Monday was Raw, Tuesday was SmackDown. Other weeks you'd have a Sunday pay-per-view, and this, all the trucks, all the gear, how quickly they can have the arena built and ready to go. It really is fascinating from a TV production perspective. What they do is on par with the NFL or with any major sports league. I mean, I don't want to say it's a well-run TV production, because that's a whole other story, but the technical aspects of it are amazing. And just to be able to move that from town to town every week was amazing. You're sitting back there sometimes at catering and you see somebody walk by that you grew up watching. Like for example, the first WrestleMania that I worked, I didn't even do anything. I was there that day, but it was in San Jose, and there's Hulk Hogan. And this was before the whole, not BuzzFeed or Gawker or whatever it was, but it was before that. I think it was before that. It had to be before that, 2014 or 2015. But anyway, there's Hogan, and I had never met Hogan. I had met Flair before. I'd met other people before. Never met Hogan. So, go up to him and talk to him. And he introduces himself to me as Terry, because we're backstage. I'm not a fan at this point. I'm part of the fucking thing, which just blew my mind. I'm like, God damn, I used to go and, like every other kid my age, like Hulk Hogan was the big, gigantic star. So as far as working there, it can be very, 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 very stressful. And the story that I usually tell to illustrate that is, for the longest time, now I'm a greasy Italian, right? Part French, part Canadian.
I didn't want to mention that, but I could tell.
What, that I'm Italian or greasy?
A little bit of both. Would you like another quick interrupting impression?
Yeah, go, please.
Hey, despite of my fucking rage, I'm still just a big fat fucking cage.
That's not bad at all. That's like it's sort of a Joe Pesci. It's kind of you almost kind of sound like one of Fat Tony's underlings on The Simpsons. Hey, boss. Hey, that I can't think. I don't know even if he has a name. But anyway, so stress working there, right? Greasy Italian, French, partly half. Anyway, my forehead, I kept breaking out, like right. If anybody's see this, if you're listening to it, just the bridge, right where the hairline is, right there, kept breaking out. No matter what I did, wouldn't stop breaking out. And I'm thinking, well, it's probably the makeup. So you're on TV, they put the makeup on you, or whatever. And it's probably the sweat and the makeup and blah 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 blah. I get let go, and maybe 2 weeks, at tops 2 weeks later, I was brushing my teeth, and I looked in the mirror, and my forehead overnight cleared up. And I remember looking at my ex-wife. I looked at her, I was like, hey, my forehead, and her jaw was just like, oh my God. That's how stressed I was. That's what it was. It wasn't the makeup. It was the stress of, like you said, always kind of being on eggshells, never knowing from day to day, like, who you might have pissed off and why and how, but then nobody tells you. So you have heat all of a sudden, and why do I have heat? Nobody will take it's. There's a lot of just fucking high school bullshit, honestly. And I don't know how much that's changed since I've been there. It's been a while now, but everybody, it's an audience of one over there. You don't write the show for anybody besides Vince. You don't do commentary for anybody besides Vince. It's all what Vince wants. And if one day Vince decides that he doesn't like your haircut, or, well, I don't like the cut of his jaw, you're gone. You're out. You know what I mean? But you don't say hi to. There's just so many things, and it's a weird place to try to survive in. Some people can. I think most people that do, you have to be a shark. You have to be willing to cut people's throats. Not everybody's comfortable. I wasn't comfortable doing that. So, take your pick. I was either the worst fucking announcer in the world, or I didn't want to stab somebody in the back, or maybe some kind of combination of both. But I know it's a long-winded answer to what you asked, but it was very, very cool. But at the same time, it can be a really tough place to work.
Yeah, it seems like being the very nervous first day of work at a new place permanently.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
Yeah.
I need to go for a piss, but I'm afraid to go. Am I going too many times? So can I go for lunch, or do I get in trouble? Should I make a joke?
I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. So, production meetings. Let's say on a Tuesday, when SmackDown was on Tuesday, the production meeting would usually be at like 1:00. So you drive in from wherever, you maybe get to bed at 5 a.m. or whatever. You sleep a little bit. You're back at the building by noon, 1:00, whatever, for a production meeting. So you go in the room and you sit around and you wait. And the production meeting that's supposed to start at 1, after about 20 minutes, production meeting hasn't started. And somebody says, okay, just got a text from Vince. He's going to be here in an hour and a half. So you rushed to get up. You could have slept an extra hour because you drove in from wherever last night. You could have gone, finished your workout, whatever. But instead you rushed to get there. And now the meeting that was supposed to happen 20 minutes ago isn't happening for another 90 minutes because Vince isn't here. Okay, he's the chairman of the company, right? Well, on Thursday nights, they would do a writers' meeting at Stanford. And I have heard stories where the writers say they get there, 7, we're going to have a meeting at 7 o'clock. Legitimately, where I've heard those writers have sat there till midnight, fucking 1 a.m. before Vince finally shows up. And can you imagine? I saw this happen at production meetings. Like, you're in there, whatever, Vince isn't there yet, so, okay, well, I'm going to go and get a coffee and whatever, and then you come back a little while later, and the meeting started. Let's just say, right? And you walk in. Now you're the asshole for being late. Hey, pal, where were you? I don't know, Vince. I was fucking sitting here for an hour. I know everybody's on your fucking time, right? But I was here. I had to go take a shit, and you walk in, and again, he's the fucking chairman of the company. He can do what he wants, but there's just no consideration for what anybody else does or has to do, and then they tear the show apart and change it up until showtime. Let's put it this way, Hughezy. It is way more fucking difficult than it needs to be. Way more difficult than it needs to be. It's not that fucking hard. It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, see, this is what I don't understand. It's like, for when you hear about how the scripts for the shows are so heavily rewritten up to the final minute, then you would expect something like I don't know if you've seen. Are you a superhero guy?
Not really.
Well, when you hear about Avengers Infinity War, you hear this story about how they had like 6 different writers writing 6 different scripts, and they would film all these alternative versions of the film, and then in editing, they were like, right, take this scene from production 1, this scene from production 3, we'll edit them together, we'll do all this stuff to where you get the final product of like, oh my God, this is flawless. I could watch this in full every day, once a week. And that's my whole problem with WWE, that if they're putting all this effort into doing a show, why isn't it perfect? Why is it so like, oh, today we're going to do a karaoke scene? You go, what? Well, why would you do that? To just fucking have somebody come out, talk shit, another person gets in the face, it gets rough, you go straight into the match. It's like, I'm in.
I think part of the problem is you've got so much time that they have to fill, so there's a lot of filler. 3 hours for Raw, 2 hours. I think SmackDown's 2 hours, right? So you've got all that, and there's a lot of filler there. And because Vince will change stuff, because Vince changes stuff, just for whatever reason, he'll just change stuff. The other issue is that you get communication issues where things don't always get filtered down. So Bruce Pritchard, for example, one of the reasons he's there and one of the reasons he's successful, and another reason why Michael Cole is so successful is because he's been there so long, he knows what Vince wants. So even if you don't have the story filled in, knowing based on past experience what Vince wants, you can fill in the blanks on your own. For somebody just kind of walking in there, that's a very, very difficult thing to do, because you may interpret, there may be a story that's kind of ambiguous, and you may interpret it that it's going one way, but Vince wants it, or the writer wants it going a completely different way, but nobody's tipped you off on that. But now you're the fucking idiot because you don't read minds. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of learning by osmosis at WWE, that the people who are successful there have been there for a while, and they can anticipate what they want. And that's what I think is difficult for somebody who's new to that process to walk into that.
Did you personally ever have any arguments / lectures from Vince McMahon?
Not really, no. Vince would give Cole an earful, and then I would get an earful from Cole. So I get along. I thought I got along great with Cole. I like Cole. I have no problem with him. I met Vince. I had Vince in my ear a number of times. Nothing as bad as like what Mick Foley explained in his book. But it can be intimidating hearing Vince in your voice, or hearing him in your headset yelling about whatever.
Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage.
God, what was it? I did a show at Madison Square Garden once, which was awesome. I'm like, oh, cool! I get to call a show at the Garden. Cena comes out and he does his salute before he goes down the ramp, and I kind of waited for him. So, like he comes out, he says something, he does the salute, and then he runs down the ramp. So I'm kind of waiting for him to say something, but I don't know if my feed that we had at the desk, like if the camera audio wasn't up. But anyway, I didn't hear John. So I kind of start talking. Lay out! John's talking! And my asshole tightened up like whatever. And I didn't say, and so then John salutes, he runs down the ramp. I didn't say anything until I heard Vince go, talk! All right. It's one of those things that I think about now, which is just so fucking batshit insane crazy that like I get yelled at by this fucking crazy, listen, I don't want to get political, but he is basically like a more charming version of Donald Trump, a smarter, less offensive version of Donald Trump. They're the same fucking guy. And Vince is he's such a character, and for fans, they have this idea of who Vince is, and to hear that in your headset, and literally, I didn't say a word until talk. All right.